All righty. So welcome everyone to our Every Step Counts webinar by University of Illinois Extension. Since it is 1 p.m. Central Time, we are going to get going. Before we start, we do ask that you make sure your microphone is muted to prevent any type of background sound during the presentation, and to make sure your camera is turned off so we have a really strong bandwidth throughout today. So thanks for helping us out with that. All righty, so your presenter today is Susan Glassman. She is a nutrition and wellness educator serving Bureau, LaSalle, Marshall, and Putnam counties with research-based educational information as part of the University of Illinois Extension. She holds a master's degree in health education and administration with a Bachelor of Science in nutrition and dietetics from Southern Illinois University at Carbondale. Susan actually has over 20 years of experience here with Extension. And me, your moderator, my name is Lisa Peterson. I'm also a nutrition and wellness educator, and I work in Christian, Jersey, Macoupin, and Montgomery counties in West Central Illinois. I've been with Extension about 6 years, and I hold a master's in nutrition, exercise, and food science from South Dakota State University. So as we go today, feel free to type questions into the chat. We're happy to address them all at the end, so that keeps us moving. You will be receiving an email post-webinar with a brief survey, and with that survey will come information about how to receive those handouts, and Susan's actually going to be talking about that at the end as well. The webinar is being recorded, and we are going to make sure that it is available to you in a quick amount of time if you'd like to get the recording. I will put the link here in the chat box to where to go about to get the recording. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn it on over to Susan.
Great. Thank you, Lisa, and welcome to everybody. We are excited to share our class, Every Step Counts, and actually Lisa and I, along with our team member, Mary Liz Wright, developed this lesson. And so we're going to get started. University of Illinois Extension, for those that may not know, is the flagship outreach effort of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. We offer evidence-based educational programs to residents of Illinois in all 102 counties. Today, we're going to talk about how to get the most out of your activity trackers. And believe me, every step does count. We will have some questions along the way, and they'll be put up in the form of polls throughout this webinar. Activity trackers are the modern day equivalent of pedometers, and they do a lot more than count steps. According to the International Data Corporation, sales for activity trackers are growing by each year. In 2017, 113 million units were sold. It's estimated that 222 million trackers will be sold in 2021. We did some research to look at the top popular devices, which are the Apple Watch, the Xiaomi Fitness Tracker, and Fitbit. University of Illinois Extension does not endorse any product or brand name. Our intention is to provide you with the research and the different features. And we're really promoting the importance of movement. So today we're going to talk about features and uses and goals and develop some awareness for activity trackers. So to start, we're going to put a poll up on the screen, and we're going to give you a few minutes to answer, but here's the question for everybody. Who uses some type of activity tracker or counts steps? We'll give you about 30 seconds to answer, and then we'll give a percentage to the group. Okay, it looks like most people have a tracker, so. So it looks like 71%, Diane?
Yes.
Okay, so that gives us some really good information to start with. All right, So now we're going to talk about why wear an activity tracker. And activity trackers are wearable pieces of accountability. Really, they keep us accountable, they hold us accountable. And you can tell that. They're a lot of fun when you have a lot of steps, right? When you have a lot of steps, it's awesome to have your activity tracker on. But then there's the flip side. And really, that's there to remind us to get up and get moving. And so activity trackers also provide a lot of social interaction. They let you compete with your friends and family. You can also compete with the tracker's weekly challenges or daily counts or check-ins. And this creates healthy competition where everybody is a winner. Believe me, if I'm walking 20,000 steps a day, my friends and family are going to notice. And so this helps to build a network of support through our fitness tracker to encourage us to get our steps in each day. They also help to motivate us for better health. When you're getting all your steps in, you're more apt to also eat more healthier food choices and make sure that you're hydrating. They help to get us off our chair, and many fitness trackers use the 10,000 steps per day as a goal. When you hit that 10,000, it's fun to see. It can be a celebration on the screen. There can be fireworks, or it can buzz on your wrist. But it's a nice way to acknowledge the accomplishment of those 10,000 steps. And we do want to mention that not while part of the official health guidelines, 10,000, sorry, let me start over. While not part of the official health guidelines, 10,000 steps equals 5 miles of walking. And so if you're at 5,000 miles a day, remember there's some wiggle room to get in more steps. When we get up towards that 10,000 steps, we'll talk about this a little more, but there's a lot of health benefits that we receive. They also set reminders um, for us to get up and get out of our chair and move, as well as they analyze sleep quality and let us know if we're getting plenty of sleep. And it's recommended that you get a full 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. And best of all, they monitor our success. A study from 2016 found that after a year, people using trackers walked an average of 37 additional minutes each week. There are different types of activity trackers. And today we're going to go through some of the main, the most popular ones and give you some of their features. And if you're looking at an activity tracker, this might help give you some guidance on which one you want to pick. And after I went through and did all this research, you may decide after listening to this that you want to upgrade as well. Um, so with an activity tracker, what do you need? Well, you can pick easy or you can pick lots of extras. Some are very simple to use. They have a lot of features and they will help us with tracking our steps and our distance and our time. And some just have those simple basics where you can just put it on and go. If you get all the extras, it's your choice. You can pick your device, and they also feature heart rate and heart rhythm, as well as activity assessments. And you can upload this data into apps so that you can electronically track your progress. Are they accurate? They are accurate at counting time and distance. They're very reliable. The one thing I found through doing the research is I really noticed the tracker's display, because you want to be able to see that display and you want to be able to access it while you're being active. You're going to want to see how far you've walked or how many steps. And so that's a really important part, is to make sure that you can see everything on the display easily. So now we'll go through some of the features. First, we'll start with smartwatches. And smartwatches really are a wearable computer. They run along with a mobile app or media. And with a smartwatch, you can also receive text, you can receive calls and emails, you can store your music and photos. And so they function as a fitness tracker. They monitor your steps. They can also monitor distance. They can monitor heart rate, and some of the newer models can actually do heart rhythm, and they can do EKGs. They monitor our sleep quality. And some examples of smart watches, which were the top sellers that we'll give to you, were the Apple Watch, the Versa series from Fitbit, and the Galaxy Watch from Samsung. Then we have our fitness trackers. And these are really little electronic watchdogs for health. They look like jewelry. They're nice. They're the size of a bracelet. And so if you like to layer them with other pieces of jewelry, they look really nice. They measure those vitals for us. They can check your sleep and they can count your steps. They're typically less expensive than a smartwatch, and they have that one main purpose to track our fitness. And so those popular ones would be Fitbit or Xiaomi, which looks like Exami in print. Sport watches and GPS watches are great if you're tracking your run or you're doing cross-country skiing or hiking. And some of those would be the Garmin watches. Then we come down to our hybrid watches. And these are really exciting because they're a fusion of a mechanical watch and a smartwatch, and they look just like a watch. They combine traditional watch mechanics with high-tech features like step tracking. They still will monitor sleep, and they have phone notifications. And a hybrid watch looks nice if you want to have that look of a high-level watch. For those who do not have fitness trackers, the newer phones, like your newer iPhone or Android phones, they come with built-in pedometers, and there's an app that you could download. And so you could download Apple Health or Google Fit. With that, please remember with starting new fitness types of programs to adhere to recommendations by your healthcare provider. These are not FDA approved, and they're not considered scientific or medical devices. So can you trust your fitness tracker? That was a question we asked. And activity trackers show good capability to measure our heart rate, our number of steps, our distance, and our sleep duration. But they're less accurate for calories burned. Sorry, right? There were studies that found that they do not measure the energy expenditures well. And the most accurate of devices were off by an average of 27% for calories. For heart rate, we found that they were within 5%. So we also asked the question of why 10,000 steps? And first I'll ask you, and if you want to add this to the chat box, you're welcome. But I'll ask you a question. What do you think the average steps is per day for Americans? So the average American walks 3,000 to 4,000 steps per day, which is roughly 1.5 to 2 miles. And when looking at the general guidelines here, we put up a table with different step numbers and activity levels. And so you can go anywhere from 5,000 steps a day up to 12,500 steps a day. And the more steps you do, the better it is. And so when we put it in equivalents of miles, 2,000 steps is 1 mile, and 10,000 steps is 5 miles. So why 10,000 steps? Well, 10,000 steps goes back into the 1960s. It came from Japan when they were marketing for the Tokyo Olympics. And it came from a marketing campaign in 1965 to sell pedometers. And they picked the 10,000 steps. Over the years, high-profile health organizations, including the World Health Organization, have promoted those 10,000 steps as targets for healthy adults. These days, most health organizations, such as World Health Organization, the Department of Health and Human Services, and heart foundations, really recommend minutes. But we still use that 10,000 steps as a general guideline. In fact, there have been a lot of studies done on the 10,000 steps, and researchers at Harvard University who did a large-scale women's health study found that using activity trackers, there were different levels, and there were women who, in the study, who walked 2,700 steps a day, and so were at a sedentary lifestyle. There was another group that averaged about 4,400 steps a day. And within those two groups, the ones who walked 4,400 steps a day had a 41% reduction in mortality. And this was a long study that was done from 2011 to 2015. And mortality rates improved before leveling off at about 7,500 steps. So that study told us that death rates were higher among most sedentary women in the study. And they determined that even small increases in your movement pays off. Just adding a very modest number of steps a day, say an extra 2,000 steps a day, can be very beneficial. And the study found that every step really does count. That's the fun of activity trackers, because you put them on in the morning and they get every step that you take for the day. And there are a lot of benefits that we've seen in active lifestyles that go back to using activity trackers. One is there's been weight loss studies that have shown after 6 months of someone walking 10,000 steps a day, there was a 3 centimeter loss in weight circumference. And after 9 months, there was a reduction of fat and a lower BMI. People have improved blood pressure. They've strengthened their bone density and reduced stress through getting their steps in. Remember that equally, research shows that lower steps can impact your health. And so we recommend that setting goals and getting some extra steps in and getting up to that 10,000 steps a day is really a good guideline to follow. Okay, so now we have one more question coming up, and since we have most of our audience has an activity tracker, how many steps have you taken today? You can fill in the answers. There's less than 999, 1,000 to 4,999, or over 5,000 steps. And we'll just wait a couple more seconds, and Diane will share this percent with us. Okay, ready, Diane?
All right, Susan, it looks like we have 34% that are reaching less than 999. 57% are between 1,000 and 4,999. And those reaching over 5,000 are about 9%.
Okay, great, thank you. And it looks like we're right a little bit above the average steps per day. One thing fun about adding up your steps is that you can measure them in distance, and you can pick some landmarks as goals. Say you want to, convert your steps into miles. You can go into Google Maps and you can switch to the walking map, and it'll give you how many miles and how many steps. But we put together some landmark miles. And so if you were walking from one side of the Magic Kingdom to the other side, that's 4,340 steps, which would be 2.17 miles. If you walked all the way around Disney World, that includes the Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Epcot, and Hollywood Studios, you're getting right up there close to that 20,000 steps. We were at 17,000 steps, and that's about 8 miles. And so that's why when I go to Disney World, right, and I get those 20,000 steps in, that's great. That's great. If you're out golfing, and now I know that it's walking for a while on the golf courses, 9 holes of golf is about 8,000 steps. And so you can switch back and forth to steps to miles easily by converting them with Google Maps. Okay, Now we're going to move into setting some step goals. And we're going to start with a quote from President John F. Kennedy, excuse me. Every accomplishment starts with the decision to try. And when we look at this, this is a really good way for us to think about setting some step goals today. And so we did some research and found through the Department of Health and Human Services that about 70% of US adults are not getting the recommended amount of physical activity. When we looked even closer, 28% of Americans, 80 million people aged 60 and older, are physically inactive. 35% of adults ages 65 to 74 are physically inactive. 44% of adults aged 75 and older are physically inactive. And so it's good to set some goals and to get some steps in and be active each day. It helps us to reduce risk of chronic disease. And so we're going to talk about setting our baseline. And if you're just getting an activity tracker or starting back, welcome back, right? You can start back anytime. You can start an activity program anytime. You're always going to get health benefits from it. And setting these goals helps us to build steps. So the first thing I say is that setting a baseline is like setting your launch pad. So you're launching off into a new avenue of health in life. And when you set your launch pad, you want to look at your tracker, and you're going to wear it through the day. You're going to wear it for the week, and you're going to do your normal and routine activities at home. And then you're going to add up your total number of steps number by 7. This gives you your baseline number of steps, or your average to start with. With that number, with that average, and remember, you're going to add up your steps every day for a week, and you're going to divide by 7. You're going to get your baseline number, your baseline steps to launch from. With that, you're going to be able to set some short-term goals. And so you may decide that you're going to take some extra steps. And so you can look at your number, your average number, and then you can add to that. So for instance, you may add about 2,000 steps a day while you're going about your normal routine. And then you might set a goal of adding another 1,000 steps. And you're going to incorporate that into your walking program. You can do it all at once, or you can cut it up into increments, maybe do it in 10-minute chunks of time. But the nice thing about our activity trackers is as we add extra steps, we can go in and we can adjust our step goals. And so we keep getting more and more steps in, which is good for health. When you set your step goals, you want to think about your overall fitness and your activity goal. And remember that these short-term goals are building blocks for long-term goal change. And long-term goals say may be that 10,000 steps a day. It may be walking several times a week as part of your new daily routine. But you have to set short-term goals to get there. And when you get to that 10,000 steps a day, that's a great guideline for us for that active lifestyle. But how are you going to get there? You have to set your goals. And the nice thing about our activity tracker is it helps us along the way. We can adjust and we can add, and it comes right along with us. And so it helps us to track our progress. And your trackers come with memory functions. They can count your steps. They can look at things your steps for the week or the month. You can even look at them for the year. And so there are online apps that come with our trackers that let you see your progress and a log. Okay, while doing that, we wanted to share that it's always good to make sure you're exercising or that you're active at the right activity level. And so you want to be able to give yourself, well, we have a self-assessment. It's called the talk test. And we want to look to see, to make sure that we're right at the correct intensity level. And so for moderate aerobic activity, it would be like you're walking and you can talk, and you're walking hard enough you can talk, but you can't sing. So the example I give is that you can walk and talk, but you can't sing out the national anthem. Right in between there is that sweet spot for moderate aerobic activity. If you're more up in the vigorous aerobic activity, you're going to be able to talk, but only a few words between pauses. And so for most of us, and remember, it's always good to talk with your healthcare provider when you're setting a goal and an intensity level for activity, but you want to be able to talk while you're walking, but you don't want to be walking too hard. Um, and so too hard would be that you can't talk, and you're pausing a lot, and you wouldn't be able to sing. So you may not be exercising hard enough if you can sing while you're doing your activity, and you may be exercising too hard if you can't talk while you're doing activity. So the sweet spot is just between there. Okay, and then setting up yourself for success, we're going to give some examples of goal setting. And we like to use the SMART goal. And so you want to set your goals to be very specific. You want to be able to measure them. You want to be able to attain your goal. It needs to have a purpose and be relevant. And there needs to be a time given to it. And so most of us were right up around that 5,000 steps a day when we did our poll. So here we are. So we're average at 5,000 steps a day. That's our baseline. And if you want to set a goal to get more steps in, maybe you'll add 1,000 steps into your daily step goal. And so you can set that as a short-term goal and say, I'll walk 6,000 steps a day. And then you're going to add your time for the next 14 days. And you can actually be really specific, and you can put a date on the calendar for your time and how you're going to measure it. You're going to walk in 10-minute increments before work. You're going to be able to walk on the weekends for 20 minutes, but you're going to get that extra 1,000 steps in every day. And so we want you to be able to be really specific with your goals, to be able to measure it, and your fitness tracker will help you with measuring the steps. We want you to be able to accomplish it and for it to be realistic. For instance, can you get the 10 minutes in before and after work, or before work and during lunch? Can you get 20 minutes in walking on Saturdays and Sundays? And then give yourself an exact date for that accomplishment. And so setting goals helps us because, like I said, setting short-term achievable goals really moves us into lifelong changes for healthy lifestyle. Our short-term goals are building blocks for long-term change, and it helps us to be more accountable. We all realize is that change is never easy. Change takes commitment, it takes discipline, and we want it to be achievable so that you can accomplish those goals. The nice thing about activity trackers is that change also can include enlisting the support of your social network. And so by having your family and friends along with you, you're even more apt to get that accomplishment. So tips for improving activity tracker accuracy. When you get your activity tracker, and those of you who have it, you do have to go through an assessment and enter in all of your information, and you enter your details. They do recommend that you wear your tracker in the same spot every day. And with an activity tracker, you're going to wear it on your wrist, and you can pick in your settings whether it's going to be your dominant or non-dominant side. Most people wear their activity tracker on their non-dominant side. And I think that the activity trackers are nice because when our arm is extended, it meets that center point of our body. And if you think about when we used to wear pedometers, they were right against the hip. And being right towards the hip gives us the best accuracy of steps. You also can add in your stride length, and your tracker will calibrate that for you. And you can use all of the add-on features and updates that we have. You can add in your sleeping time, you can add in other activities, you can even add in yoga or Pilates or other sports that you do. And it can actually even increase the accuracy of your device for you. Okay, so here comes another question, and we're actually getting into the afternoon. But when do you find you're the least active during the day? And let's see what our responses are. Diane's going to put the poll question out. So our question is 10:30 to 1, 2 to 3, or 7:30 to 8:30. When are you least active during the day? Lots of responses coming in. That's great to see. And we're getting up to about 30 seconds, and Diane will look at the results for us and give us the update.
All right, Susan, it looks like 13% are least active between 10:30 a.m. and 1 p.m., 24% between 2 and 3 p.m., 56% between 7:30 and 8:30 p.m., and 6% for other.
Okay, thanks, Diane. So we did some research and we found the most sedentary times of the day, and they came from data from Fitbit from 2015. But those were the times that we asked of you guys, which were most sedentary: 10:30 to 11, 2 to 3, or 7:30 to 8:30. And I know mine is 2 to 3. At 3 o'clock, I need a cup of coffee, right? So, but know when your most sedentary times are, and look at, the amount of time that are sedentary times. We know that as age increases, sedentary time also increases. And it was interesting with research from Fitbit. They found that people in their early 20s were showing a significant increase in sedentary time. And from the age of 20 to 24, sedentary time jumped by an hour. So we kind of thought that was welcome to the workforce, right? And while you're working, through the years, sedentary time continues to increase. And so from ages 24 to 30, it increased again by another 30 minutes. And from ages 30 to 55, another 30 minutes of sedentary time was added. And so through the generations, more sedentary time is added to our day. And the good news was that once you hit up around the age of 58 and up to about 66, up to about retirement time, sedentary time begins to decrease, right? So people are retiring. It's kind of like the school's out feeling. You're free and you're able to go out and you're able to have fun, and so your schedule changes. And so that was really interesting data when we looked at it. And so I know what my sedentary times are, and I kind of have to plan for that and make sure that I do take care of myself. I do get a little rest during the day when I need it, but I'm not spending too much time with sedentary time. And it's really important because, we talked about the general guidelines of steps, and the change between 5,000 steps to 10,000 steps is a huge difference in our health. And so from 5,000 steps to 10,000 steps, we see a lot of decrease in risk factors. And so it's good to get those extra steps in. And if you're getting too much sedentary time, then those risk factors like diabetes and obesity, blood pressure, they can increase. So we want to make sure we're really aware of our schedule and how our active time is and how our sedentary time is during the day. So we did some studies. How often should you be moving, right? And I love the sign here, beware of the chair, right? We're all watching how much time we're spending on the chair. We could have beware of the couch for all of us at home right now. And I know being at home right now, working at home, there's days that I sit in front of my computer for a long time working, and you really get involved into a project and you're concentrating, and sometimes you forget how long you've been sitting. But research at Cornell University suggested that every 30 minutes there should be a difference in our body movement. And so there should be, for every 30 minutes, you can have 20 minutes of sitting, and then you can be standing for 8 minutes and 2 minutes of moving. And so they recommended taking those breaks for sedentary time every 30 minutes. And physical activity is the 4th leading risk factor for global mortality. And that's from the World Health Organization. Research studies conclude that prolonged sedentary time increases the risk of those chronic diseases that I just mentioned. And so even if you exercise, they found this out in the research, even if you're really active and you get your exercise in, too much sitting time is not recommended for good circulatory vascular health. And you can kind of feel it, right? If you're sitting for a long time, you feel it in your legs. You might feel a little bit of stiffness when you get up. And our body needs to be up and moving so that the blood can circulate and it can nourish our muscles freely. Researchers actually found that 10 minutes of walking, getting a quick 1,000 steps in after sitting for a long period of time, can help repair vascular health. Also, if you're in the chair like I am all day, or if you're on the couch, it's how you're sitting. So make sure you're sitting up straight and you have good posture so that you have good blood flow. Also, when they found during the study that just standing, you need to be moving a little bit with it. And so this might be the great research you need to get that standing desk that you wanted, right? That's something I want. I want to get one of those standing desks, because then you could be sitting for a little bit. For 20 minutes, you can get up and you can set your activity tracker to give you a reminder to stand up, and you can stand up for 10 minutes, and while you're standing up, you can stretch up on your tippy toes, or you can move around a little bit, but you get the blood flowing. And so we want to make sure we're nourishing our muscles and that we're getting good circulation through the day. And so this went right along with that research. Okay, whoops, go back one more, sorry. For physical health, we talked about those steps, but also you can focus on the minutes. And this is really what we see most often recommended now. This is recommended in the Physical Guidelines for Americans, the 2nd edition from Department of Health and Human Services. And I think it's important for us to look at, because our trackers do count steps, but they also will count the time for us. My smartwatch has 3 rings that I need to get each day. It has a step ring, it has an exercise ring, and it has a standing ring. And so you want to get your circles completed. You want to get your rings completed each day. And so our activity trackers can monitor other things than steps to let us know that we're achieving this time. And for adults, we want to get 150 minutes a week of activity. And see there, again, here comes that moderate intensity aerobic activity. So you're able to talk, but you're not able to sing. And that's that sweet spot. And then there's 2 days of muscle strengthening activity. And this is where I started thinking, so what could I do for some muscle strengthening activity? Well, have you tried to do some wall push-ups while you're at home? You put your hands flat against the wall and push back and forth. That really builds some muscle. I like to do arm circles, and you can do those even while you're sitting just to get some stretching in. And then when I'm up and say I have a Zoom meeting or something, I put my hands on the table or the counter, and you can do some leg lifts and things like that. But you're getting that muscle building activity in as well. So you can incorporate that really easily and get that strength building because it's really important. And for kids, ages 6 to 17, they need 60 minutes a day of activity. We probably all know that, right? But we need to provide youth with opportunities, and we need to encourage them to be participating in physical activity. And I think the fitness trackers are nice for kids because they can count steps and time right along with us. And that gives them that little accountability for their health as well. Part of their day and their 60 minutes also includes those muscle strengthening activities. So it can be those wall push-ups with you or the arm circles, or they may do some other things they like, and then bone strengthening. And so we want to make sure that we're giving them all the tools, and activity trackers are a great tool for kids to get more activity in. And they're fun. Okay, so we're kind of coming into the home stretch. We're going to talk about how we can move more at home and at the office. And for most of us at home right now, you may be in a lot of meetings, right? You may be on a lot of calls with people, and you might be visiting or doing things for work, but can you stand up during those times? Yes. And you can stand up, you can even get some steps in. And so that's one suggestion. The other one is to keep hydrated and to keep a small glass of water right by during the day, handy for you to drink. And a small glass because then you have to get up to refill it often. So we're getting you up and get some steps in. And then taking some short walks during the day. And you might be walking around your house. You might be able to walk around your neighborhood. You might be able to walk around your yard. But at 4:30, when I'm done working, it's like, woohoo! I have a little circle I walk around in my house, and I turn on some music, and I walk around that circle, and I count some steps off, and it really makes me feel good to finish the day. And so you can plan those walks in, and I do that because I have that activity tracker on, right? I need to get my steps in. You could also stand up and count off 100 steps periodically through the day. And so there's lots of things that you can be doing to be moving and getting your steps. We also included stretching. And so there's stretches, we talked about the wall push-ups and leg stretches and the arm circles. The nice thing with your activity tracker is you can set your timer to remind you to stand up and be active. And then that social network, you can find a partner to check in with during the day. And it helps us to just be more accountable for making sure that we're practicing those good active lifestyles. Okay, so what are some of the benefits of activity trackers? I thought I would kind of pull everything together and we'd look at it all on one slide. We covered a lot of area today, but our activity trackers help us with setting fitness goals. You can use the SMART goals that we discussed to start to outline some short-term goals and some changes. And remember, those are the building blocks for long-term change. And you can also connect and you can compete through the social media channels with your activity tracker. It's always fun to look on the apps and see what the weekly challenge is, or to hook up with some friends that have the same trackers and walk alongside with them. One thing that we know from being active is your mood improves and it helps with clarity. There's a lot of good positive benefits that come from these activity trackers and from getting us to walk our steps. That risk for chronic disease like diabetes or obesity or high blood pressure, when you move up in those steps, they have found in studies of people that walk 10,000 steps a day that their risk reduces by 3 times. And so there's a lot of literature that is good for those benefits for activity trackers for reducing risks. It helps us with our sleep. It analyzes your sleep quality and how many hours of sleep you're getting a day. And then it gives us our reminders to stand up and move. And the one thing that it really does, it really makes us accountable for making sure that we're being active every day. All right, so now we're going to see if there were any questions, and I'm going to turn it back to Lisa to see if there were any questions in the chat box.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. So we had a couple questions that came up. And the first one that was asked is, what brands are hybrid trackers?
Oh,
So do you know
so
any brands? Yeah.
there are a lot of them, and when I did my search, I didn't really write down the specific brands. I can find them, but they are the brand. They look like watches. So I've seen them at Macy's. There's like Michael Kors, and that's a watch and a smartwatch together. And so it's that hybrid fusion.
Yeah, and I can kind of help add to that too. I mean, when we were working on this program, Garmin has one that's called Vivo More. Fossil's done a couple of them, that popular Fossil brand as well. And Withings is another one that has one, but they are hybrid watches.
Yeah.
All right. So the next question that came up was, how accurate are apps on cell phones for counting steps?
Well, it depends if you get it close to your center point of your body. So if it's in your pocket, that's where you want to have it. You want to have it in back pocket if you can. But with all tracking devices, the closer you are to your center point, the more accurate they are.
Great. Okay, and then one of the other questions that were asked here are, what are some of the basic features essential in an activity tracker?
Oh yeah, so they all have basic features. They all count your steps. They will count distance. They will help you with the time that you're spending in activity. And then as you go through the different trackers, there are different features. And so some of the new ones, oh my gosh, they do heart rhythm, they do heart rate, they track your sleep. And so you really have to look at the tracker type, like we went through the smart watches or the fitness tracker. Each type has different features. So you really have to do your research and explore through that. Did you have anything with that, Lisa?
Not really when we talk about
Okay.
basic features. Yep. The other one that you got asked was, what are some, when you looked at your research, what about resistant bands? So those who use resistant bands, did you see if those were being counted on pedometers or fitness trackers?
I didn't see a lot when I researched this topic. Did you see anything, Lisa?
Not really. With resistant
Okay.
bands, I think it's similar to weights, where
Yeah.
it is a little bit harder from, at least when we looked at the research, we didn't get too far into strength training with these pedometers or fitness trackers.
Yeah, that would be something we could look and explore a little bit, and we could get back to the person who asked that question, definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Resistance bands fall in the same category, with the weights and the strength training. Yep. All right.
Great.
Well, I don't think I see any more questions in the chat box.
Okay.
All right. So, double checking one more thing. Oh, I got one more coming in.
Okay, we'll
So,
go back.
what do you think about have you heard of it? It's OURA, or Auria Smart Ring?
I have not. I'm so sorry. that I would love to explore and find out. I really stuck to our research with the activity trackers that you wear on your wrist, but we can definitely find out some information and share that.
Yeah, there's always new technology out there, and that's another
Yeah,
one that I hadn't heard of. So yeah, thank you for sharing. I
gosh,
definitely want
thank
to
you.
look into that more.
And that technology is so important for us to mention is it changes so quickly. And when I was doing my research, I have a smartwatch, and doing the research, I found out so many new features that are available, like the heart rhythm, and that they actually do EKG. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. They monitor other body functions so well, and so they're really great health tools for us to have. And when you can connect them to your apps, you can even look and get more information about health that way.
Okay, and our last question here is, have you found any type that really tracks cycling?
So that one, when I looked at the research, that was really with the sport watches
Hmm.
and the GPS watches. And they also said that if you put your tracker down towards your ankle, if it will fit, it will monitor the movement better that way. So
Interesting.
that was what I saw with that, because we were just gonna start biking this summer, and I'm like, well, how can I get my steps in with a bike? And so we looked, and they said that you could wear like you could put it on your ankle and do a sock over it or something, but there were people that have seen that it can track you in that way. So
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we've had a couple more come in here, and we still have plenty of time. Is there any way, actually, the first one was, what can I do at home to help with my steps where I don't have a lot of space?
oh, okay, so this is a great question. And you can try, and I do Leslie Sansone on YouTube, and she has videos that are walk in place. And so you can do a 15-minute mile with her. And then I also, like I said, I just stand up and do 100 steps, and I'll do that through the day. But my house is really small as well. And so I've made a little walking path. And then I also have a walking path in the backyard that I do.
All right, great. Oh yeah, that's awesome. I'm hearing some great news in the chat about how other people have like
You guys
Leslie as
like her?
well.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love her. And it's like the time goes so fast, and you can walk a mile in 15 minutes, and you get those steps in your tracker. And so if you're trying to get over a certain goal that you've set, by doing something like that, you can really rack up the steps quickly.
Yeah, and I just want to, we had asked about our recording of our webinar. We are working as fast as we can to get these recordings of all of our webinars onto our website. I will share it again in the chat box. That's go.illinois.edu/nutritionwell. And we're working on getting them closed captioned. And so that way, when you'll have access to any of them on our website. So as we're doing these weekly, you should be able to go to our website and just listen to us all over again.
Yep, they're all will be there.
Yeah, yep, and I'll get it in the chat box here.
Any other questions?
All righty.
Okay.
I think that's it for now.
Okay, I'm going to move the slide next to our next one, Lisa.
All right, so before we wrap up, I did want to briefly mention our Extending Wellness texting program. It's 100% free. What happens is when you sign up, you get 2 text messages a week with healthy eating, finances, family issues, as well as a lot of our research that's coming out from campus. We don't share your phone number, and you can always opt out at any time, but we do. I'll share the link again in the chat box, and that's go.illinois.edu/wellness tips, and I'll make sure I put that into the chat box. And just a quick reminder, you're going to receive an email with a survey momentarily yet today, and we're asking you to fill it out. It'll help us improve, as well as sharing things you really liked about today. One of the great things about these is we do ask for suggestions. We'd love to hear what else you'd like to hear about in the world of nutrition and wellness. So please please go ahead and take that survey for us and tell us what you'd like to see, and we're happy to share it. And I'll kind of hand it right on back here to Susan, who's
Okay.
going to talk a little bit about the handouts.
Yes, so we have a great handout. It's called, it's our Every Step Counts handout. Let me see if I can show it to you guys really quickly. Let's see. Here it is. Hang on. You should be able to see it and view full screen. So can everybody see it? So this is the handout, and it's very comprehensive. It includes all of the things that we talked about today with suggestions and the research that we've done on the activity trackers. And when you turn in your survey, and we have your email, I will email you back that handout so you have it. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. And also, I wanted to just say thank you to everybody for being with us today. And we are so excited that you're here for our free webinar series and that you're healthy at home with us. Next week, Lisa is going to be presenting with Mary Liz Wright and their University of Illinois Extension Nutrition and Wellness educators. So next Wednesday, May 6th, from 1 to 2 Central Time, we're going to be learning how to take our kitchen appliances out for a spin, which is a great class and has a lot of information and some really good recipes to share. So with that, I would like to thank everybody today. Like I said, we are glad that you're with us, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.